Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Christy Scales.
Welcome to Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Today is a very, very fun special day. It's a Thursday edition of our show, and we've got a very special guest. I'm so excited.
That's right. Defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli is here to launch exclusively for 5 Points Blue and all of Cowboys Nation, the Rod Marinelli Book Club. So move over, Oprah Winfrey. We've got Rod Marinelli's Book Club. And before we talk about the first book that we want to give as a reading assignment, first of all, Rod, tell us why you want to do this, why reading is so important, and how you incorporate it with your players.
Sure. I just believe in everything. I think that's a foundation of who we are, the English language, and to be able to express ourselves and then to have the ability to consume information. And so I'm obviously a big proponent. I'm not some genius reading. I just love it. My daughters have found the same, my grandchildren. I just think it's something I've emphasized. And then I've always emphasized, find something you love first and read about that. And then it leads you into other areas that, because you start loving this stuff. And so I've always been huge in terms of football. And not just the X's and O's part of it when I've got to read. The value means everything to me. And I guess I was really basically raised by a football coach, my high school football coach, and that were all the values in those days, how you did things and the values you could see from playing football to moving on in life. And I guess I'm really anxious to do this because I think we can miss some of the values today. It's not fantasy football, and it's good. People love it, and that's great. But I think there's another side to it that we've maybe kind of brushed by.
Well, the mantra that you go by, coaching the man and coaching the player, could you elaborate more on that?
I think it's really important. One is the development of men and ladies, in sports. Yeah. And I think if you just jump right into the X's and O football part of it, this is what you're going to be, all those things, you never really gain the person you want to be a guy who's going to be responsible have a great responsibility into your system, accountability, discipline. All those things make up a player. So when I get them, I've always believed you build the man first. And you talk about things, what is accountability, what is discipline. You can't assume they know that. I just don't assume that. I don't assume a guy knows how to get in the correct stance. I don't care, played all these years of football, we'll find some flaws. And we also find flaws in ourselves as people. So I try to help them to identify, and then them understanding that, then how hard we're going to be able to push them. Because if you didn't have that foundation, that fiber, he's not going to cut it with us.
When I approached Nikki about this idea of a book club, we've got to get Rod to come do this. She was surprised to know that, because I get some of the reading assignments too, but you are constantly giving your players reading assignments, or not necessarily read, but just go Google, what is it? Go everything you need to know about Deacon Jones. What are some of the things that you ask of your players?
Yeah, I sometimes I'll see a player may remind me of a certain old player. And it's like we went to the Hall of Fame. Make sure you look this guy up, you look this guy up, like we talked about. And a great example, I think once you find something they can see to reach toward, they can get there. Example, when Jason Hatcher was here my first year, I just thought he looked like Big Daddy Lipscomb, one of the greatest players to ever play. Huge, big man, okay? So I called him Big Daddy, and over, and he researched this guy, and he saw this guy, and all of a sudden you see yourself. Part of being a coach or a teacher is to inspire, not just here's where you line up. It's about, the game was designed this way, in my opinion, to how do you inspire these men to lead a life after football. Okay. So that's part of being a man.
Absolutely.
I keep using phrases, a man, because that's the world I'm in all the time.
Yes.
I apologize. But we talk about real men in that room. What is that? And I think once they start really having a grasp of that, and then you find out the history of football, why it was really invented, all those things, which is a couple of these first books bring you to that, how it can help people, and that's what it was designed. And if I could throw one more thing out, I think we're in a capitalist society where we're asking these young men coming out of high school to go out and compete in this society without learning how to compete.
Yeah.
And that's where your sports, those type of things that you have, it could be a speech competition, doesn't matter, but you got to win. You have to go. We're doing them an injustice to go out there into the world without how to compete and win. If we want them to go compete in our country for jobs and whatever. So it's just not the knowledge, it's how to compete. And I think through reading, through sports, through those things, for me, not for everybody, but for me and my grandchildren, my children, that's important.
Definitely.
Well, this first book in the series, and 12 Mighty Orphans by Jim Dent, the inspiring true story of mighty mites who ruled Texas football. Yeah. It's inspiring.
Oh, yeah.
It involves a coach, teaching. There is so much to this. Here's the hard sell. We want people to go read this book. Why are you starting with 12 Mighty Orphans?
Yeah, I just, Matt, when I read it, it was unbelievable. So you find out in this book is obviously these are orphans at the orphanage, true story, and there's no football program.
It's in the 1930s in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah. And this coach, you have to, I don't want to take too much of it, but you'll read about this coach. He is what a coach should be.
Okay.
And he starts a program there. There's 12 of them, and they go on to win a state championship.
Wait, only 12 players on a team. There are 11 players on the field at a time. Yeah. Let's just say that this is way before the era of specialization, right? Yeah. So these kids are having to play both ways, offense and defense.
And when they practice, they could only practice half line, not a full team. They didn't have enough players. But what it did, and he states this better than I can say it right now. There's a couple paragraphs. But what football does, it gives people with no hope, background, it gives you a team. You belong to something. You're together, and you're trying to accomplish something together. It teaches them how to compete for the rest of their life. And it's amazing what all those kids went on in their careers to do.
I told Christy that when she handed me this book, it isn't a book that I would typically read. I love novels and silly stuff, but I started it and I haven't gotten far, and I'm really, really impressed. I'm ready to go back and start reading. Yeah. It's really good.
Well, and see, the thing, and part of my pitch for Rod to come on to 5 Points Blue podcast and do this, and it didn't take a lot of arm twisting, because I know you're excited to do it, but our goal and the name of the podcast is everything you wanted to know about football but were afraid to ask. And so I think that there may be some ladies out there who don't know a lot about the history of football but think, oh my gosh, a book about football? I don't know. But this is so much fun. I just want to give an example, if I may. And it kind of gives a Jim Dent style. Yeah. But he's talking about some of the names of the boys that were among the Mighty Mites on this team. This is page 68. Just about all the boys that came to the orphanage were tagged with a nickname. There was a Dinky, Pinky, Donkey, Red, Soap, Chigger, Chicken, Moco, Chalk, Floppy, Tinfoil, Beer Belly, Fish Ear, Curly, Baldy, Freckles, Pee-wee, Trash Can, Possum, and Buck. Leonard Snoggs Roach got his nickname because he was Snaggletooth. The boys were still learning to spell, and more apropos, might have been used might have been the use of his last name. He was about the size of a roach. Snogs, even on his best days, weighed no more than 60 pounds. But that did not stop Russell, who was the head coach, Rusty Russell, that did not stop Russell from putting him in the starting lineup each Saturday morning at the park. The boy was a gritty, low-flying fireball that hit below the knees and turned kids upside down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing about one of the reasons for 12 Mighty Orphans is a couple of seasons ago, you kind of gave a moniker to your current squad, the 2016 team, called them the Orphans.
Yeah,
it was a nod to this, right?
Oh, yes. It was the Orphans, and I, we talk about it in different phases in there, but we kind of identified with that. And these guys went out and, just how they got here. Nobody, we had a lot of guys, free agents that just came in and not a lot of pedigree, and they came in and played that way, that style. And it was a solid defense, but how hard we played is the key. And the game still values effort.
Yeah.
Everybody, we're going to go look at all this talent and all this talent and all that. The guy with effort daily, not just in football, but the rest of your life, will win out at the end. Mm-hmm. They win out.
The coach, Rusty Russell, who Jim Dent profiles so brilliantly and tells his story, in what ways do you identify with that coach and what he did for these kids?
I think it's caring. Caring's an action word, and it's you love where you're at. You love coaching players because you love football, and that is also another avenue to help these men grow. I mean, it's all part of that, and I think that's what a career coach should be. Yeah. You got to win, no doubt. That's our profession. That's what it's all about. And when they understand that, that's competing to be the very best, and that is a takeaway from football for the rest of their life. They're going to hit down spots when they're out of the game. How do you compete?
Right.
It's the same way. It's the same thing you're learning. But they have to know what they're learning. They can go through a process with never even understanding.
That's right. That's right.
And they get out of it, and, how do I do? Well, this is what you've been training for. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's up to us to constantly point those things out. I thought Rusty did a terrific job in that area, and then tying those guys together and playing as one, and really tough, that toughness. Not the talking tough, not the late hit tough, they played the game the right way, and they got back. All those guys succeeded in life. It's unbelievable how many of those guys.
Yeah. The most famous from a football standpoint was a guy named Hardy Brown, who played many years in the NFL. But I don't want to give a spoiler alert about the end of the book, but you talked about how these orphans achieved in life, and one of them, who went on to be this brilliant mathematician and physicist, actually helped Oppenheimer and all those guys with the in World War II with the development of our atomic program.
Yeah.
So this was about so much more than football, is to your point.
And if you look at it, the value. And I think it's important when you have a child playing football and he's not the starter and he's not all that, it's okay. You want him to compete to be that position. But the thing you may recognize him more because he practices all week and doesn't play. And he doesn't complain. And he's part of a team. And you can be part of a business firm. And you can be part of whatever. But you're learning how to be part of a team. And that's the part that we miss here a little bit.
Yeah, but how do you massage that? Because what's going to happen is we're going to add some guys in free agency, but then we're going to have the draft at the end of April. You're going to have these rookies come in at rookie camp, and then some undrafted guys and some tryout guys, and they'll have their rookie camp. And then when it's OTAs and minicamp, the veterans are in, and the new guys that come in, they're used to being the star players. Right. They wouldn't be getting a crack in the NFL. But how do you kind of massage that ego where they've gone from big man on campus to being the very little fish, the guppy
Yeah.
in the huge pond?
I'll give you two ways that I think. One, first of all, you take it where guys are never going to make it in the NFL. Okay, those guys aren't part of it. It's the high school kids we're talking about. That's that one phase. And how he learns to deal with it. I mean, sometimes adversity for them it's a blessing. It really, truly is. And football will always give you adversity. If you're a really good player and you get knocked down, you're going to get knocked down. Okay? If you're winning, you're going to lose. And if you've never made that starting job, adversity. So how do you adjust? How do you take your skill level and go to another level? So that's a huge phase, in my opinion. And then the other phase is just like you talked about, is that where we're at right now, and in the NFL, and these guys come in and all that. That's why I go through some of the man building stuff. I try to talk about what is a real man. How does he handle that? So say it's in your life, and you're having an issue with a family and all that, and you're married, whatever. So you quit, or do you act like a real man and step up to the plate? There's the challenge. Now how do we accept it and go forward? And I'm not going to help you through it. I'm not going to give you little tears drops and all this stuff. I'm not going to do that for you. I expect you to man up and do it. And that's that workforce we need to put out there now, coming just maybe from high school. And they've never had kids that, and you can compete in other sports. I'm just football because I have the team and all that for me. But you can get that in a lot of ways. But the worst thing is, first time he has to compete for a position in a business, he doesn't know how to compete.
Right.
And
Or work within the framework of a team.
Of a team. You've never
Right.
been involved in a team, and you got to sacrifice something. Sometimes, man, I want this, but hey, I get it. I got to do it this way. And that's the structure you learn.
Yeah.
And football is unbelievable like that. Yeah, I want to do this, and well, no, you're not the right end, you're the nose tackle.
Coach, it sounds like you are literally preparing these young men to be husbands, fathers.
Yes.
Where does that passion come from?
Football.
Football.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just see so much of it. I was blessed to be around unbelievable high school staff, coaches, that all I ever remember is when we played on Friday night, they wore suits. White socks, Riddell's, cleats, unbelievably sharp. And I'm from a normal, and an okay area, and I'd never seen anybody in a suit. And I thought, wow, this is really important. And it was to them. I'd ask him at times, why do you wear a suit? Well, you set a standard. I'm setting a standard by your sport. This is what it is. Yeah. And those things are so, at least for myself, unbelievable impression on my mind. Yeah. That this is bigger than just going out and playing. Yeah. It means a lot more.
See, Coach is still mad. In the NFL, they're not allowed to wear suits anymore.
I'm not saying I would be wearing them. But
when you went your first job in coaching after you at Cal Lutheran, where you played, was at your alma mater, Rosemead, in L.A., just not far from downtown L.A. Did you wear a suit, or what was it like when you went back that first time and were working with? I mean, those guys were the same generation as you.
Yeah, and it was your
players
same head coach
and
was
students
there, and all the. That for me, I would struggle with. I'll be honest. He's the guy that flunked me in PE.
Wait a minute, you flunked PE?
Yeah, because
Coach Marinelli flunked PE?
How's that possible?
Yeah, no, he did. I mean, I did everything I was supposed to do, other than I never. He was strict. You had to have washed tennis shoes every Monday, and your T-shirt had to be washed, and they had to be laid out in front of you.
Okay.
So you went out barefooted, and then he checked your T-shirt, checked your size, and then would make a note. I never had a clean one. But I could say, I would ask him, and this is what you learn. I said, how does that make me play better, having a clean pair of shoes and a clean shirt? Well, I understood after I took it in summer school.
Okay.
And I was
needed a double dose.
Yeah, but no, it's just about attention to every detail matters. How you present now. All of a sudden, you look at a young person saying, "I want to go interview for a job that I really want."
Right.
and you learn maybe how to present yourself, the best of you. Whatever you are, be your best. And you kind of learn that along the way of football. And so to me, it's incumbent on all those young coaches and coaches today. That's got to be part of their DNA, and you would hope. But if it's done right, and that was done right for me in my world and the guys I kind of grew up with, and I will always value that part of it.
Is that akin your time in the military, where you have to have the bed, the squares and stuff like that? I guess what I read somebody, it's like if they can't get it right in the morning and making their bed, how do you get it right the rest of the day?
I've heard that.
You're right. You're right. So it's just those little things that you get in sport. Like in those days, we all had to wear a tie on Fridays, when you played, whatever. But it was a uniform. Then you played that night is uniformity, which now, when you go out in the world, you get a job. You may not like it, but you got a uniform
right
to what it is. And then the kids that can't do that get fired. And now they're struggling to make it. And they want to do their own thing. It is, in business, it isn't your own thing. It's their thing.
That's right.
And you have to, where do you learn it? Obviously parents can teach, but where is it reinforced daily? Daily reinforced. And I know football does, taught the right way, and sports in general.
And you have a granddaughter who is excelling in sports and is a collegiate swimmer.
Yeah.
And I know you take great pride.
Oh, yeah.
I get the update each, before the game each week on the sideline of how Cameron was doing that weekend. But I think I want to bring it back. You were saying how this applies to everyone, female. And we want this book club to be not just for football moms, for Cowboys Nation, the guys who grew up loving the Cowboys and want to learn more about the game. But we see this as a way to bring families together, because I'm thinking like Cameron and the other grandkids. So what we want to do is encourage the people who want to get involved in your book club and read 12 Mighty Orphans, and then we'll talk about some of the other books that we have planned later on. But do you see this as an opportunity for the family to do this together?
I just think for the young girls, they just take to this. My granddaughters, wow. I mean, they're tougher than nails in the right way. My youngest daughter is a chef in a hard, competitive world. She goes, Dad, you have game day on Sunday. I have game day every day. I don't practice. I got to get it right. And my oldest girl she got 4 kids and ball, and she's a competitive gal her whole life. And so she's able to teach that. And the girls, it's so awesome. They just thrive. And I see girls today, I just see a stronger, more competitive. I think it's the best ever, what I see. And I'm just hoping, this sounds crazy, that the young boys are getting as much of that. Because I know the girls are driven. I feel that. I see it in my granddaughters, and hey, they're going to get all the A's, and they're going to be the best in what they do. No second places here now. And I love that part of it. So they seem to, my 2 daughters and my 2 granddaughters really gravitated for that. I'll send them stuff I give my players, they'll read it, and I love this and that. And the boys, they're grinding. But I just think I just see such a desire that being very ambitious as a girl is a good thing.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of glass ceilings have been shattered, but not enough. And I don't want to go on some kind of rant here, but sometimes you have to work harder in the businesses that we're in, especially a male-dominated field of sports media and or NFL and things like that. But there are also so many great mentors out there, and you've been one to me, and also just encouragement.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what. But again, that's something that we want to share with all of Cowboys Nation, not just the football moms or the ladies who want to learn more about the game or their daughters. This is for
Everyone.
Everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody. Can we ask you a couple, because you were talking about how you see your players progress and teaching them to be more than what they are when they first come in. How gratifying was it? Let's use DeMarcus Lawrence as an example with his first Pro Bowl season and 14 and a half sacks. And not just that, but what was it that you really took the most pride in with DeMarcus?
One, he has overcome a lot of adversity. Okay, and the biggest thing that stands out in my mind was his first year. He got beat up, ankle, or I can't remember, his back or something. So he missed a lot as a rookie. Came in late in the year and started playing. And then I think it was one of the most mentally tough situations I've ever seen a player perform in, is that Detroit playoff game.
Yes.
And he's in there as a rookie, and Spencer made a sack fumble right at the end, and he tried to pick up the ball and run and got stripped. Right there, you should always just, at the end of the game, just jump on the ball. But it wasn't his fault. He came to that, and now they're driving the ball. I can remember him sitting next to me, and usually you would see a young person on the bench with his head down with a towel wrapped around his head, quitting. As soon as you give that image, in my world, you've quit. And he's right next to me. Give me another chance. Give me another chance. And he goes out and has that sack, fumble, and he recovers it. Right. That was the strength I saw. That's what I see about him. And then he's at injuries up and down, and to put it all together, this has been a progressive thing. That's why I don't like to see the jump like that. He's put it together step by step, all the way up. And if you really watch football, he had the sacks and all that. It was how he played more than anything. The effort and the hustle and doing the little things, squeezing a block, being great at every phase of it. And that's the part I really see. Yeah,
defending the run. I mean, he was just really as good against. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet.
Right, never does.
Yeah, it's kind of like, DeMarcus Ware, as great a player as he was and holding the all-time record for the Cowboys for sacks, but coverage if he needed to. But I mean, he was setting the edge. All those kinds of football. Unsung hero kind of things.
It's teamwork. Mm-hmm. It's not about me. And and now, that being said, in this league, it's a little bit challenging because they get paid for numbers.
Right.
True.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's part of their business too, to make money. We get that. But our challenge is okay, we can do all that within the framework of being a team.
Yeah. So now you've got a young guy like Taco Charlton who just finished his first year and at the end I thought started coming on a lot more. So what is his biggest thing for this off season and going into the next season to make the leap in your eyes? What do you want?
I think you have to always go back to the very start. Put your socks back on. Get back to the basics every day. Never assume that you have this down. You can't. Well, I got it. No, we don't. I don't have it. We go back and we restart. And that's the mental toughness it takes. That's where the strength comes in. It's kind of like going in an English class and then taking another one. You got to go back and refresh yourself, and then you move forward. And I think I got it. No, you don't. But the thing about ours is it's physical, it's hot, heat, pressure every day. And you're sore and it's physical, but you got to go through the labor of the fundamentals every day. But it's still no different than what we've done from English class to anything. It's the same concepts. And so you just got to take them through that. And those are such great learning experiences.
Yeah, and all the Hall of Famers that you've worked with over your career, whether it's Derek Brooks or Warren Sapp. We thought John Lynch might get in this year, still to come. Everson Walls. Everson, does he deserve to be in the Ring of Honor? He's that's.
I can't make those. Yeah, I know of him as a great player.
We were talking about Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago. I think that Everson or John might get in this year, but anyway, later on. Hey, we're almost out of time. So for the book club, this is the book that we're going to start with for this first month. It's 12 Mighty Orphans by Jim Dent. It's available, whether it's Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com or it's about $10, maybe $14. You can get it in paperback. And if you want to work ahead, what we'll be doing later in the spring, this is the one that you wanted to do for our second book, right? Called The Big Scrum, How Teddy Roosevelt Saved Football by John Miller. Just a quick 2-sentence one on this.
I just think it's kind of where we're at today. You know, I think we're at that kind of that crossroad a little bit. And then there was a lot of deaths in the early 1900s. And he brought coaches in and said, fix the game. We're going to live a vigorous life. Fix the game. And they saved it. Yeah,
but 110, 115 years later, here we are. So
I got some reading to do.
Yeah, well, we're so excited. Yes. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll regroup and we'll follow up in the coming weeks. Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. That'll do it for this week. 5 Points Blue, back to the basics.
This has been a production of 5 Points Blue, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.